better than your currency. Splurging millions, buying houses like Monopoly. Fucking 9 to 5, man, the money is a joke.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the No BS with Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Thanks a lot for tuning in again this week, guys and girls. Lots of cool things happening out there. Lots more games being played via the system that we live in. And today I want to talk about the big Ponzi scheme. I've got a few little bits of news articles and some charts and graphs and stuff here. But yeah, today I want to talk about the Ponzi scheme, the big lie that we are living in. And I'm going to start off with some sort of articles and whatnot. So if you guys are watching this or listening to this from the podcast, head on over to birchfeed.com. Birchfeed.com is something where I put out daily news articles and things that I share, give my commentary on it and whatnot. So it's free. You don't even have to be a tight ass. If you got no money, you got no excuse, just head over there. It's free. So birchfeed.com and check out what I'm posting around and what my thoughts are. So obviously we're heading to a point like this. There's so much happening in the marketplace today. If we think about what's happening out there, right? Used cars gone up in value, commodity prices gone up in value, house prices gone up in value, food gone up in value, furniture gone up in value, tools have gone up in value, building materials have gone up in value. Tell me something that hasn't gone up in value. Like really sit there and think about it and go, shit, what hasn't gone up in value in the last year? What hasn't gone up in value in the last 10 years? What can I buy in 2021 that's cheaper than what it was in 2011 and cheaper than what it was in 2001? There's not much out there, right? I'm telling you, there's not much out there. So, why does this happen? And everyone's out there, I'm sure that we'll be branded after this cycle that we're going through, where people will be like, yeah, I'm a hero. Like I already see it. Like I go onto Facebook and I see all these scammy little fuckers that are trying to sell stuff and push their agenda, and I just feel like diarrhea coming out of their mouth. I'm like, these guys are fucked. But anyway, that's a different story. Just be careful out there. Disclaimer out there for everyone. Just be careful because there's a lot of shit that's going on which isn't factored on from. It's not because the property is great. It's not because the car's any better. Not because Macca's food got any better. It's because your money has been manipulated. You are getting robbed, right? Your wealth is getting stolen from you. Everything's going up due to inflation. There's no rocket science to that. The real rocket science is understanding how inflation works, understanding what levers are being played here, and looking for the opportunities within that and owning the assets. Owning the assets is a big part of it. So it doesn't matter whether you got seriously fucking Dogecoin, that thing there. I remember buying that at 0.001% about I think it was about 6 years ago. It was about 6 years ago. Me and my mate Mitch were buying these things. We're like, let's buy a couple of million worth of these coins because we couldn't buy a million Bitcoin of that. So we're like buying them because it was funny. It was like $2,000. And I remember that I bought Dogecoin. I bought 2 million at $2,000 and it went to $6,000. And I was like, fuck, I just, tripled my money. I'll just sell it. It's just for fun. Looking at $1 a day, there's no reason. It's a bigger Ponzi scheme. I'm not calling it a Ponzi scheme per se, but it's a bubble. And the only reason why it's been allowed to become a bubble, two things. One is hype and propaganda. And secondly, is down to the fact that, there's so much money sloshing around in the system, people don't even know where to put it. There's so much currency floating around at the moment and everything's going up in value. So what can you buy for $1 today? If I said to you, here's $1 coin and gave you $1 coin, let's say I gave you $1, what could you buy? Going back 10 years ago, going back 15 years ago, going back to when I was at school, I could have bought 5 frogs for 5 cents. I could have bought a little juice thing for 20 cents. I could have bought an ice block for 20 cents. I could have got a sausage roll for $1 or something. But, what can you buy for $1 today? You can't buy shit. Right? You can't buy anything. It's not because you become poorer. You didn't do anything wrong. You're still going to work and still doing your money. You're still doing your thing, but you're being robbed of your purchasing power, and the media isn't going to tell you about it because guess who owns all the media and the propaganda outlets out there? The ones that are causing this fuck around for you. So I'm going to read out my first article today. As filming of this, it is before the budget. This article came out just recently from Frydenberg to fire up the economy in a major shift to the budget policy. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg will use his post-pandemic budget to deliberately run the economy as fast as possible in a bid to save the nation's jobless rate below 5%, uptrending the federal government fiscal policy. So if you're in education now, you're getting a training grant or some sort of stimulus package to go off to TAFE or to do an online course or whatever, suddenly you're not unemployed, you're a student now, so you can get off the balance sheet, but it's still paying for you and you're not on the jobless list. Right? How many things can they manipulate here? In a major shift in rhetoric, budget policy, Frydenberg will on Tuesday use a speech to bring the government spending plans in line with the Reserve Bank's own aggressive monetary policy stance, whilst abandoning any rush to post-pandemic austerity. Frydenberg has overseen the largest budget deficit since World War II, with the 2019-20 shortfall of 85 billion. To be dwarfed by the deficit of at least 150 billion in the current year. Next month's budget is expected to be a deficit of 50 billion. We're in the trillions of dollars of debt that we've printed here in this country. We've printed trillions of dollars. I just saw something on the weekend, and it was, I don't have the article here in front of me, it was an article saying that Frydenberg's going to be giving a 2% deposit mortgage, right? A 2% deposit mortgage, right? Next thing I'm going to talk about is house prices, right? And we've got, house prices are rising. Everyone thinks they're a hero. My game, let me just tell everybody that's listening, you might be new around here or whatever, my game is property. If someone was to say, Birchy's a property broker or some shit like that, they'd probably be on the money by having, Nathan has an interest, a very big interest, like a $100 million interest to push the price of the property market. I'd prefer personally for the property market to crash, because it would mean that I could go buy more shit cheap. But it's going up, so it is going up, and we've got to work with what's going on. But by no means did I make the property go up. By no means did you make the property go up. By no means did any other reason, apart from fraud, manipulation, and corruption, did this occur. Throughout any time in history, did this occur? No, it did not occur any other time apart from the last 50 years via monetary policy. So we've got here, the newest one is Frydenberg's going to give out I've got here so something came away. It's like an ad. So if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, if you're not watching on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/B.Invested. But I just showed a little chart and I'll put it on the screen here so everyone can have a look at it. It's just an ad from, 1971. So this is from a Sydney newspaper clippings from 1971, so 40 years ago, or 50 years ago actually. 50 years ago, house prices. So we've got here Balgola, Seaforth, so DY. We've got the northern beaches of Sydney. So 27,500 for a cottage, a 3-bedroom cottage, 31,000 for a deceased estate, full brick and tile family home on a very large shrub-studded block, 50 by 225 meters. Yeah, so that's quite a big size block. It's like 1,000 square meters. 31,000. Balgola, $17,995 for a double full brick 2-story duplex. So these properties now have gone up from 17 to 30 grand price range, so 17 to 30 grand, up until maybe the $4 to $5 million price. I don't know. I'm not a big buyer in this area. I don't actually buy there. I've bought a few properties over the years in the northern beaches for people, but you'd be looking at something going from 20 to 30 grand all the way up to $5 million in value, $3 million in value. How the fuck did that happen? It's like your Toyota Corolla going all the way up to $3 to $5 million. How did that happen? What happened at this point in time? We've got here Newport, a furnished 1-bedroom unit, 10,500. Newport, a cheap block of land, 9,600. A lot of you guys will be like, these people were lucky and whatever. But no, it was fraud and manipulation that made them go from 20,000 to 30,000 all the way up to $3 million, $5 million, $6 million values that are on these properties today. What fraud occurred? Monetary policy occurred. We've seen fraud on, policies out there just in general, stimulus packages. Like, I remember my mum telling me that my dad, like, so back in 50 years ago, around this time in the 1970s, around this time actually, exactly, my mum and dad bought their house in Parramatta for $13,000 a house and land package. When they bought the house and land package, my dad was the only worker in the house. If someone was to buy that house today, you'd have the husband and the wife enslaved to a job, not just one person. My dad had to go and put a suit on. He was a mechanic. He worked for the NRMA. So he had to put a suit on, go down to the bank and explain to the bank as to why he deserved to get a loan. Now you just push a button, you send off a few photos, they go cool. They'll come to your house at 8 o'clock at night to try and sell you a mortgage. Interest rates no longer 10 or 11%. There's no sound money, there's no backing to the currency. There's been so much money printed, it's just raped and pillaged any value that was left in the currency that we have. You only have to put down a 2% deposit. The government will give you a deposit to pay for that 2% deposit just so you can go take on debt. Like, you can see a mixture here of the government stimulus packages and policies, as well as the central bank currency creation. That is the biggest Ponzi bubble that has kept this market alive. People feel like they're getting richer from buying a house and it goes up, but you know, if you bought that property for 30 grand or 20 grand, you know, your whole quality of life was probably better back than what it is today. Even though you could say, I've got a $5 million property, you can't do shit with that. You sell it, you're paying, you know, I'm looking at cars, I'm looking at furniture, I'm looking at ladders, I'm looking at wheelbarrows. Everything is going up in value in the market at the moment. You can't get cheap things out there anymore. It's all getting inflated away. It starts with this and it trickles all the way down. So, you know, to think that we've got a government that last year you can put your mortgage on hold. We've got 2021 where, you know, we'll give you the deposit. We'll give you 25 grand for buying a property. Don't worry about paying the stamp duty. We've got a government which is saying, oh, you're a single parent. Of course you're a single parent because, you know, everybody's getting divorced nowadays because they have to work and stress and pressures and Instagram and Facebook and all these sort of things are in our lives. Not going off topic too much. You know, you get half the population is probably a single parent in the world today or in the country. And because you're a single parent, we will give you, like, if I was married, right, and I had a kid, I'd feel like divorcing my wife right now so I can get a second property. You buy one, I buy one. It's like Bill and Melinda Gates, right? When people talk to me about Bill and Melinda Gates, that is a one hell of a different story, right? Like, it's everyone's like, oh, look at them, they're getting a divorce. If they can't have a good marriage, no one can last. No, I think they're very strategic in that. So just think about it, right? The benefits for you know, why someone could be divorced. People ask me, why don't you get married? Why, you know, if I was married, this would be more advantageous to get divorced right now and have some kid. There's going to be outside of wedlock. You can both get two properties and ride the property bandwagon. So I'm not telling people to go get divorced so they can go buy a property, but I'm just saying, you know, it's ludicrous out there. These stimulus packages, you had to put down a 50% deposit 50 years ago. Now you put down nothing. You put down fuck all. You get into a property for like 10 grand, 20 grand, and you got $1 million property. I enjoy it, right? I've got lots of debt. It is becoming more and more worthless every day. Every day shit happens. You know, my properties are going up in value. The debt is becoming cheaper to pay off. I've got more cash flow coming through. I'm able to go and buy more assets. I'm loving it. So having assets is very important. Debts to me is not an issue. No financial advice, of course, because I know there's really silly people out there that will do silly things with what I say. But yeah, I think debt's a good thing personally, and I'm certainly not paying any of mine off at the moment. Looking at the next thing here, right? The cost of raw materials. So iron ore. If we have a look at the chart here, we can see that iron ore at the start of 2020 was less than $100 a ton US, and now it's over $200 a ton US at the time of recording this. So it's gone up 100%. Copper price, and just remember that iron ore is needed for building a car, for building anything that needs steel. So yeah, Copper, so any electrical goods, any plumbing goods, copper prices, cost of building a house, like it's all gone up. If you check out these charts, look at copper, lumber, and iron ore, and put the charts. You've never seen anything like this. Probably, a Ponzi scheme, some sort of fucking pump and dump. Maybe Dogecoin might have a chart that'll look silly and it'll just go all the way up. But you don't see these charts too often, right? And why have they not occurred any time in history? It's because we've got a currency debasement. The copper price has gone up in the start of 2020 for less than $2.50. It was around $2. Now it's up to $4.69. So it's gone up 150% in a year. Lumber, so timber prices have gone up from $250 broad feet, 1,000 broad feet, to $1,600. So it's gone up 6 times within a year. It takes me on to my next discussion, which is manipulation, fraud, manipulation, suppression. Whilst we have the cost of everything rising out there, we've got property prices rising, we've got car prices rising, we've got food prices rising, we've got commodity price, everything's rising. We go and look at things like silver, for example. And we'll have a look at the chart of the silver here. And this here is a very interesting one. And this could be potentially, and I've heard people talking about silver for so long, oh, silver's going to go off, it's the greatest thing ever. I talk about silver a lot. People ask me about Bitcoin today. Should I buy Bitcoin? Bitcoin's 80 grand. Bitcoin going up when he should be talking about silver going up, for example. Why did he never mention that? I believe is because if it went up in value, then his business would be in serious trouble. It would go bankrupt, as would a lot of the other tech companies out there. There is a big need to keep the price of silver down, and it is controlled via things called paper contracts, which basically are controlled. And I don't want to go too deep into it because I could be given some legal letters and stuff like that from people. I just don't want to go down there. But if you look at a place like the COMEX, like they're paper contracts. Why would you want to have an ETF or some sort of paper derivative of the metal? If it's $20 or $30 or $40 or $50 an ounce, you could go and pick up a little piece of it and put it in your pocket. Actually, I think I got one in my pocket randomly right now. Right? This is the little crappy silver bar that I found in my car, and I was flicking around. It's fun, right? So it's if you're listening to this and can't see me, it's there. It's a little 1 ounce little bar. You can go pick it up. But why would you go and pick up a paper contract? I just don't understand. And going back to the start of this year, there was the Wall Street Bets squeeze, which was on GameStop. So the Wall Street Bets group, it's a group of people that are trying to buy up all of the shares in this GameStop company. It's a company in the US. And the price went up from like $6 or $7. It was like a dead company. It was a zombie company. And it went all the way up to like $400. And these GameStop guys bought it. The reason why they went to buy it is they thought if they bought all the shares, then the people that are doing the shorts on the market and suppressing the price of it would have to cover their short position, and then they would have to buy them off them, and that's why the price went up to like $400. They have turned their attention over to the silver market. So if you look at this chart, if you can see it on the screen, you can see two lines here. We've got the red line and then we've got the blue line. The blue line is the open interest, OI, or the inventory, the amount of stock that there is in hand at the moment in the COMEX, which is the paper contract market for this. So the paper market is the market which holds, which sells the silver and the price is derived from, just as it is with lumber and corn and wheat and all other sort of, I haven't even looked at the charts for corn, wheat and all that sort of stuff, but I will after this, and I think everybody probably should, and keep an eye on food prices because they're going to rise up as well. But we've seen a very interesting swing on this chart here. As we can see, from the start of 2020 up until now, the silver price has gone above the open interest and inventory. So the price is rising a little bit. It hasn't risen like lumber, it hasn't risen like copper, and it hasn't risen like iron ore, but it has gone up marginally. However, the supply of it has gone down, which is very interesting because that could be kaboom, for an upside swing. There is a big movement out there online on Reddit. The Wall Street Bets Silver Squeeze is out there. Go and research it a little bit. Not saying to people to go and run out and buy anything. I'm not a fan of selling anything, and I'm not a fan of buying anything. I look for things of value, and I start to gravitate and start accumulating assets in those classes and those fields. My ones today, my position is very set. I've been buying this stuff very, very cheap. Very, very cheap for a very, very long time. My interests nowadays are more into agriculture and into hotels and motels and tourism and hospitality. So that's where I'm sort of putting excess funding at the moment. So as for what could happen to the silver market, I have done some extensive sort of research into what this silver shiny metal could go to, and I've sort of played with some numbers, charted it out over the years, and I had a prognostication that somewhere around the $500 to the $1,000 price range is very, very achievable and could go there quite easily, and that is without a hyperinflation. If the silver price went up to $100 to $200, I think there would be a big issue in the financial markets, and I think it's being held down artificially. Don't know who, don't know why. I think we can go dig deeper and find out as to who and why and all that sort of stuff. But that is a whole new fraud and a whole new scam and a whole new Ponzi scheme, just as is the money creation, making the value of your currency more and more worthless. And in closing today, I want to talk about a thing called Gresham's Law. I'm going to read this to you and ask you some questions afterwards. So this is just off Investopedia. You can look at the article, look it up yourself, just type in Gresham's Law into Google, Investopedia. What is Gresham's Law? Gresham's Law is a monetary principle stating that bad money drives out good. It is primarily used for consideration and application in currency markets. Gresham's Law was originally based on the composition of minted coins and the value of the precious metals used in them. However, since the abandonment of metallic currency standards, the theory has been applied to the relative stability of different currencies in value of global markets. Key takeaways here is Gresham's Law says that its legally overvalued currency will tend to drive legally undervalued currency out of circulation. Gresham's Law is originated as an observation of effects of metallic currency debasement, but is also applied to today's world of paper and electronic monies, which it's not money, it's currency. In the absence of effectively enforced legal tender laws such as hyperinflationary crisis or international commodity and currency market, Gresham's Law operates in reverse. At the core of Gresham's Law, the concept is that good money, money which is undervalued or money that is more stable in value, versus bad money, money which is overvalued or loses value rapidly. The law holds that bad money drives out the good money into circulation. Bad money is then the currency that is considered to have equal or less intrinsic value compared to its face value. Meanwhile, good money is currency that is believed to have greater intrinsic value or more potential for greater value than its face value. One basic assumption for the concept is that both currencies are treated as generally acceptable media of exchange and are easily liquid and available for use simultaneously. Logically, people would choose to transact business using bad money and hold balance of good money because good money has the potential to be worth more than its face value. So if we look at it, people will be squeezed at this point in time, just as these silver squeeze guys out there and the Wall Street bet guys are out there. People will be squeezed to shake down and hand over their good money. What is good money? Is Bitcoin good money? I love Bitcoin. I love cryptocurrencies. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of goodness in there. I was thinking about this the other day, right? If I was to sell some Bitcoin, let's call it. If I was to sell a house, right? You could have bought a house for 500 grand and now it's worth $1 million. You go, okay, cool. I'm going to go and sell my house. I'm going to take the $500,000, and then what are you going to do with it? There's not much that you can do. Like, there's, 500 grand is a fair bit of money still. It won't be in the future. But if you were to sell your car, you might go, wow, like anyone that's bought a car today, you could be driving a car that's 10 years old, 5 years old. If you've got a 5-year-old car, you could probably sell it for the same price you paid for it, if not even more than what a new one would have sold for at the time that you bought it. So if you were to sell your car, what would you do? You'd take that money and buy what? everything is going up in value, right? And that sounds like very much what is happening at the moment. So if we look at the origins of Gresham's law, the minting of coins provides to have the most basic example of Gresham's law applied. In fact, the law's namesake, Sir Thomas Gresham, was referring to gold and silver coins in his relevant writing. Gresham lived from 1519 to 1579, working as a financier, serving the Queen, and later founding the Royal Exchange of the City of London. That's a whole new story to go look up. The City of London, it's not a city, it's a corporation. But anyway, Henry V with 3 I's, whatever that is, Roman numerals, not my thing, had changed the composition of the English sterling, replacing the substantial portion of the silver with base metals. Gresham's consultations with the Queen explained that people were aware of the change and began separating the English shillings coins based on their production dates, and hoard the coins which have more silver when melted down were worth more than their face value. Gresham observed that bad money was driving out the good money from circulation. Sounds very much like the budget that's coming up this week. Good money is being pushed out. This phenomenon has been previously noticed and written about in ancient Greece and medieval Europe. The observation was not given a formal name, Gresham Law, until the middle of the 19th century, when Scottish economist Henry Dunning MacLeod attributed it to Gresham. How Gresham Law works. Throughout history, mints have made coins from gold, silver, and other precious metals, which the originality gave the coins their value. Over time, issuers of the coins sometimes reduce the amount of precious metals used to make coins to try and pass them off as full value coins. Think about that, right? You've got $1 and $2 coin. They are gold, right? They look like gold, but they are not gold. Otherwise, they'd be worth probably $900 for a $2 coin, and probably about $1,400 for a $1 coin. The smaller coins look like silver coins, but they are not silver coins. They are just made up of nickel. So it goes on to read, ordinarily the new coins with less precious metal content would have less market value and trade at a discount, or not at all, and the old coins would retain greater value. However, with the government involvement in such legal tender laws, the new coins would typically be mandated to have the same face value as the older coins. This means the new coins would be legally overhauled and the old coins legally undervalued. Governments, rulers, and other coin issuers would engage in this order to obtain the revenue in the form of seigniorage, and pay their old debts, which they borrowed in old coins, back with the new coins, which have less intrinsic value at par value. So, as I keep saying to people, right, my game is I like collecting assets, I like generating cash flow, and then buying more assets. I have debt, and my debts I plan to pay out using the future devalued currency, which I'll be getting. It'll just be a wash of money. It'll be like paying off, instead of paying off a mortgage with 10 years worth of hard labor, I'll be able to pay off a mortgage with maybe a Kit Kat bar or a cheeseburger meal or a Big Mac meal from 2020 when I go to pay them off in 2030. What we got here? The end of this process, known as debasing the currency, is a fall in the purchasing power of the currency units or a rise in general prices. In other words, inflation. In order to fight Gresham's law, the governments often blame speculators and resort to tactics like currency controls, prohibitions, and removing coins from circulation, or confiscation of privately owned precious metal supplies held for monetary use. In modern example of this process, in 1982, the US government changed the composition of the penny to contain 7.5% zinc. This made pre-1982 pennies worth more than their post-1982 counterparts, while the face value remained the same. Over time, due to the debasement of the currency resulting in inflation, copper prices rose from an average of 66 cents per pound in 1982 to $3.05 per pound in 2006, when the US imposed stiff new penalties for melting coins. This means that the face value of the penny lost 78% of its purchasing power, where people were eagerly melting down old pennies, which were worth almost 5 times the value of the post-1982 pennies at any point. The legalization leads to a $10,000 fine and or 5 years imprisonment convicted of this offence. Fortunate enough, I loved collecting pennies when I was younger, and maybe there is a fair few of them to be found out there that you could potentially melt down. Not that I go and melt down coins because I have no use for it, but collecting the base value, I think it's worth a lot more value having the dodgy characters, the dead criminals that are on the back of the coins and notes to be shared. Payments and transactions, but when all currency units are legally mandated to be recognised at the same face value, the traditional version of aggregation law still operates. In modern times, the legal links between currencies and precious metals have become more tenuous. I can't read it. I'm very good with mathematics, but not with English and reading some of these words. So, don't know what the word is. And eventually being cut entirely. With the adoption of paper money as legal tender, the accounting entry money through fractional reserve bank, and this means that the issuers of money were able to obtain signorage by printing or loaning money into existence at will as opposed to minting new coins. This ongoing debasement has led to persistent trend of inflation as the norm in most economies. Most of the time, in extreme cases, this process can even lead to hyperinflation, where then money is literally not worth the money that it is the paper it is printed on. In cases of hyperinflation, foreign countries often come to replace local hyperinflated currencies. This is an example of Gresham's law operating in reverse. Once a currency loses value rapidly enough, people tend to stop using it in favor of a more stable foreign currency. Sometimes even in the face of repressive legal penalties. For example, during the hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, inflation reached the annual rate of estimated to be at 250 million% in 2008, right? 250 million% in 2008. Though still legally required to recognise the Zimbabwe dollar as legal currency, many people in the country began to abandon its use in transactions, eventually forcing the government to recognise the de facto and subsequent de jure dollarization of the economy. In the chaos of the economic crisis, with near worthless currency, the government was unable to enforce its legal tender laws. Good, more stable money drove out bad, hyperinflated money out of circulation first in the black market, then in general use, and eventually the official government support. So let's look at what's happening at the moment. We're seeing currencies being printed globally. We're seeing the inflation rates going up on everything out there. And, where are we sitting at the moment? Like, tell me what, if I gave you a handful of cash, right? They put all these 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cent pieces in your pocket. What would you be able to buy with it? What can you buy? You can't go buy a can of Coke. It's now like $3-4. You can't buy a little bottle of orange juice. It's $3-4, $5. A bottle of Powerade's $5. Like a meat pie is $5. A bread roll from down the bakery, it's probably got some glazing on it now, and they say, oh, here's your brioche bun, and give it to you for $3-4. So we're now in a world where inflation is eradicating your purchasing power. Why in the fuck would someone want to have money, i.e. dollars, i.e. currency, in their possession? You want to own assets that are going to be inflated away so you can have more control, more options, and more, there's a transition of wealth. In these times, currency or money goes from weak hands to strong hands. You need to work out, do you have weak hands, do you have strong hands, and how is this game going to work, and how are you going to benefit from it, and how are you going to set up, more importantly, for a family dynasty moving forward. So, are you just thinking about making a few bucks today? Because if you are, $5 from today is worth nothing tomorrow, and $1,000 today, which might seem like a lot, is becoming more and more worthless. So, are you looking at it from I want to make a cute few bucks? Because if you do, just hold on to all of your assets and they're naturally just going to go up. Or are you looking at it as for intergenerational wealth? And that's something that I'll be talking on another podcast very shortly. So make sure, as always, that you check in at Spotify, Google, and Apple Play. Check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/B.Invested. And if you need any help on building out a property portfolio, whether you're just starting out today or want to, advance your position, contact us 1300 367 925. Email us at admin@binvested.com.au. And finally, all of these news articles and little comments that I put out on a day-to-day basis, it is free. You just need to go to the website, birchfeed.com, register. It is for free, so you don't even need to be a tight ass. And inflation, you can't inflate free away. So we'll catch up soon. Thank
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar about to die, soon to be hyperinflated. This my 2 cents, don't care if you save it. Joint be decentralized and you will see you been lied to the whole time, and it's the irony, cause they do the exact opposite. You become a slave to the system, enough your money, all they do is profit. There's no conspiracy theory, you better hear me. Crypto will set you free before the system does. I don't care if you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is the truth to the reason you choke. I never been a failure, excuse my behavior. Keep talking, haters doing me a favor. They all tell lies, I know what they been telling you. I'm the opposite, the Donald Trump of Australia. It's amazing, here for the taking. My time is never wasted, just getting wasted. These girls say I'm really breathtaking. I can't help it if I really misbehaving.